Computer. Well, hello, guys. Today I am really excited because I get to have Kim Spears, who I have known for about over 3 years.
Mhm.
And I have to say, you are the most teachable person I've ever met. Most people are always, like trying to find information and then they stay there, but then you take information and you just take off. So I'm really glad that you're here. Kim is going to share with us her process before and after using TechnoTutor. And so, Kim, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you were before and where you are now.
Well, my name is Kim, and I am a mom to six kids. I have four that I gave birth to, and two that I got through marriage. And the youngest is a freshman, so they're mostly grown. And for the last probably I guess my whole life, I've been on the journey to discover truth. Like I just had a hunger for it. And about 4 years ago, I started to wake up out of some of the illusions that I had been programmed to believe. And since then, honestly, like what I've been trying to do is just unwind my mind. You could say almost like unwind my mind back to God kind of thing. So, uh, you know, there's so many processes that we like when we're on this journey that we do affirmations, listen to lots of talks, but sometimes that just doesn't take care of what's in the basement that needs to be cleaned out, like just the programming's just running. So when you introduced me to TechnoTutor, that's the hook that I bought, because um, I want to clear out that faulty programming so that it's not hard to step into a life that reflects what I actually believe. But sometimes what I believe isn't manifesting because the old programs are still running. So that's kind of where I came from.
And so, you've had TechnoTutor for about 4 months. And then, so you were doing what we all do, right? The meditations, trying to find out why. Why is this
Yes,
happening to
yes.
me? Why am I going through this? Why is it so hard for me? And then you get TechnoTutor. And then what are some of the things you've seen change within your life, within your family, within your surroundings, the way you interact with people, and so forth?
So, like, the biggest thing is the disruption of that pattern. And I can't tell you like why it happens. It's just like all of a sudden you'll be like, okay, well, that's not there anymore. The silly, I mean, like, I know we've laughed about it, but like my biggest trigger had been this little 14-year-old Shih Tzu dog that I got because when I married my husband, she came with him and she had been trained just to puppy pads and she misses the pads and she kicks her poop. Sometimes she eats her, like just ridiculous. Like, I mean, was so triggered and I tried forgiveness. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pretend like this is, just my job and I'm going to enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. And no matter which way I turned, like nothing gived. And then I started flashing with TechnoTutor, just all that stuff. And suddenly, like, even though I can't say that I like that she misses the pads or that she makes messes, it's just not a trigger anymore, you know? Um, I just take care of what needs to be taken care of. And there's not that anger and charge behind it that was there before. So, and I mean, it turns out the funny thing is when she starts flashing is that memories start to come up and it's like not even related to her. So, and that's just one really practical, it sounds silly example, but it was like the thorn in my side every day because I stay at home. So I'm with her all the time. So, 3 or 4 times a day, I'm mad and that's not who I am.
I love it. But so as you see, for example, then changing with her, um, you realize how what you going back to on the programming, right? And how we're got all of this data in our brain of programming that we are not even aware about, that is not even related to the things that we're constantly just experiencing over and over and over again. Do you feel that then by applying the same sort of formula to then everything else in your life, has that helped you as well?
Yes, absolutely. Because, like, just say, you know, how you're maybe just having a conversation with your husband, and then something comes up that, like, triggers you a little bit, or he's in a bad mood or whatever. Like now, instead of just responding the way I always did, I noticed that I stop and I breathe. And that's part of the forgiveness work that kind of goes along with the TechnoTutor and the community and everything. And I realized that I can either run that old programming and just engage and let things turn into a fight, or I can just observe it. And within probably, I mean, usually within 90 seconds, that's how long most emotions last, it's gone. So it's the little things that we don't even know we're repeating over and over and over again. Those are where the magic is. Like, I think a lot of times we're always waiting for something big to come in, and then, like, we've learned our lesson and then we make progress. And what I'm realizing is it's the everyday things that we do over and over again. How we respond when our kids are late, how we respond when, I mean, just any little trigger, you can rewrite that. And, something like TechnoTutor is a great tool to help us to do that. Um,
I do find interesting how, and it's hard to, for me, it was first hard to grasp on the point of steady flow, right? Like we want, like you said, we want to and we are kind of swayed that way in like the energy healing and all that stuff. Like you're going to work on
yeah.
this. And it's almost like this belief that there's like this big gift at the end, right? Like the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to get that
Yes.
thing. And it's going to be like, I've been working so hard in this. I'm going to get my right? And then that's not true in any way.
There's no destination.
There's no
And
destination.
that's the biggest lie of all. And I
Yes.
think that is something, like, if we can just accept this is where the magic is, right here, right now,
Right
where
now.
my journey is. Like, there is no vacation at the end,
Yes.
the
And
learning never stops.
the
And if you
thing
know
is,
that, you can enjoy it. And also, I think you're motivated to work on the faulty programming, because if you don't, you're just going to have to work on it, if not this lifetime, in another one.
yes, absolutely. Or, um, realizing and using TechnoTutor, it's like you have this opportunity to, as it comes up, you can work on it, right? And then
Yes,
that's it,
yes.
right? Or you can only build up and build up and then it blows in your face. And then now you have to work through all the consequences and all those things that you ignored. So now you have like much more than to work on than if you were to
Yeah.
just address it
It's like
right
a
there.
big clean, right? It's kind of like, I think, gardens are in my mind a lot. Just how TechnoTutor is kind of like getting in there. And when my garden was first new and it was easy to see all the dirt around the plants, I would go out there every day and I would pick just these little bitty, and it was so easy. It was effortless, you know. But if I didn't do that, then it was much harder. Then I couldn't get the root and it was going to come back and la, la, la. Well, TechnoTutor kind of helps you get it when it's just
Yes.
that little sprout that's starting to develop.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then on the other hand, if you do have that big thing that you're dealing with, you're able to break it down, right? Because
Yeah,
that
true.
that's another thing that I found where, let's say I'll be working with someone and then I'll see, okay, they have this problem, right? And it's like they start feeling better, but there were so many consequences that were created out of that one point that if you don't identify them, the problem then comes back. And then they're like, well, I thought I worked on it, right?
It's tricky. I mean, and it's a spiral. So I think that's something that the ego mind uses against us sometimes, when you do see that you're coming back to something that you've already dealt with. It's like, see, you really didn't get it, but it's not that at all. It's just that you're getting it on a deeper level.
Yes.
So, I mean, Yeah.
Yes. Have you found anything like that for you where you worked on it and then it came back up and then you found something deeper and then something deeper?
I can't think. I mean, like lots of stuff. I can't think of like a specific example right now. I'm sure one will come, but yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, and I laugh about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I thought I already dealt with that.
Yes, yes. I did where was it? The word relationship for me was it. Like I first thought it was like you talk about the relationship of something specifically, like your relationship with your dog, right? But then and for me it was with my daughter's eating. And then I realized that I had to really dig in the word relationship and how that relates to everything because we make a relationship to everything. The relationship you have with you,
Yes, we
there's
do.
and then it was like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh my God, like I would have never even thought of that if I wouldn't have gone through the process using TechnoTutor. And that was amazing.
It's mind blowing when you start to uncover some of the stuff that's just down there, and you didn't know it was there, and it's just like,
And then we
I have
see,
memories that come up, lots of memories that come up from your past as you're working, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'd forgot about that, but I bet that is why. And then for the next, I'm 49 years old. For the next 40 years, I've just ran that program. It's crazy.
right, and everything that comes with that, right? Because you can go back to every single moment in which that replayed, and then it replayed, and then it replayed. But the cool thing is that it's able to bring you back to the root. And then when you at the root, then it's easier to then decompose or, undo all of that stuff.
Yes, yes, exactly.
How do you see yourself 6 months, a year, 5 years?
I mean, like, There I don't have a long-term goal to be like somewhere. I'm not looking for a business or anything like that. I just see myself continuing in the journey to like face whatever's coming up. I don't really strive. I'm at the point in my dream where I'm just not striving for anything. I'm not seeking like, I know money's not going to make me happy. I feel like I know that what the universe has in store for me is better than what I can dream of myself. So, like, I try to stay in a state of receptivity and, like you said, go in the flow. So, what I see is just more peace, more synchronicities. I see, just continuing to work towards self mastery, and ultimately, to know that I'm creating from a place of love and that I'm not miscreating. Because the truth is, I know at this point where I am, I still miscreate in fear. And there's that's manifesting for all of us. We're collectively working together. So I just see step by step moving more towards that love-based living. And what seems to be happening is because we're all connected, we're just all starting to light up, and it's really like a big snowball that people that you don't even think would be open to new ways of thinking are waking up and thinking the same thoughts that we are. So it's just a beautiful thing. And I just look forward to the unfolding, more than to say, well, in 6 years, I'm going to have $1 million and, live on a yacht or something. I don't know. I have no idea, but I can't wait to find out.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciative that you shared with this and I um wanted to share this because I remember, um the first time that I was like, oh man, like I asked Drake, I'm like, well, how can I like put more of myself, right? Or like what can I do for other people? Because like this is really great. And he was like, sharing is the best thing you can do. And through sharing, I have met so many people that have reached out, and said, hey, I heard your story and oh my God, like, can you tell me more, right? The point of sharing and that itself is like a growth, right? And we can't even imagine like the community we'll have in six
Yeah.
months, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, where everyone, as you say, that is waking up collectively then can see wow, it all starts within me, right? And I
Yeah,
see like
yeah.
you sharing right now, it could be, today, tomorrow, 6 months, a
Just the
year,
willingness. Yes, yes.
someone just listening to your story and saying, wow, like this person was able to walk through all these points that sometimes we don't want to face. Sometimes we don't want to really uh, address because they could be painful or they could be
Yeah,
bothersome,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why it's there. That's why we've stuffed it down, for sure.
That is so true.
And I think too, like the thing about TechnoTutor that I need to work on is the aspect of community because I've kind of been a little bit resistant to that. Just mainly, I think, because of my past with the church. Like sometimes it just feels like, no, I'm not gonna sign up to go to that meeting. But I will say, I've listened in afterwards and like the community that's there, I mean, they're amazing. They're amazing. And just listening, even not on the live, I got so much out of it. And all that's so powerful because it's almost like we're building villages and they're
Yes.
virtual because we're not all together. But it is going to birth, I think, especially with TechnoTutor, a new way of educating our children. And as you know, like I admire that about you because you're at the point where you can start with Aria and do it. Like you can pave this new way of because the old way of homeschooling wasn't appealing. I mean, I looked at it, it wasn't appealing, you know.
Yes.
Um, but that's what you're a part of is and I feel like myself as a parent that's already kind of moved through the school system, well, now I at least can give my energy to something that is worthwhile for the future of our kids because it needs to be. I mean, we don't need to fix the system, we need a new system.
Yes.
And
Well
I think
said.
that's what's being created in your community, especially with the children. I mean, it's for all of us. But kids are so open and receptive that, Aria is just willing to work on it. Now, like I've asked my teenagers to do it, but they haven't been open enough to actually do it yet. And that's just because they've had all those years of doing things the way they were programmed to do it. So it's much, much easier if we get parents like you that are starting, from the beginning. It's beautiful. It really is. Mhm.
Absolutely. You know, I saw it like I always had this thought in the back of my mind myself of like, well, if I do it with Arya, it's very simple like that, like, oh, well, she's young and so forth. And then when I did it with my stepdaughter, I was like, oh, wow, it will take longer because obviously you have to undo and then redo, but it is
Yes.
possible, right? And then you think about it now, take it further into the adults, right? Because the adults that are raising these children that are to be paving, right, to be the new
Right, right.
generation, they have to be then also on the path, and they also have to be educating them
Working on
the proper,
themselves.
right? Because then you're transferring all these things onto the children, right? And obviously, the best case scenario would be before you have children, you work on yourself and
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
have children. But sometimes that doesn't work out, and then you have to do it as you go and open and willing to learn.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we can't go back. All of us can see clear once we're through something. So just start where you are and I think it will just unfold for each individual in the way that it's supposed to.
I agree. How do you, knowing what TechnoTutor does, do you see how this can create, as you say, with the children, but let's say we all started using it as where we are right now in
Mhm.
order to create that world, then how do you see the effectiveness of it in your own way of seeing
Oh,
it?
I mean, like I would think it would just be like wildfire if we all, I mean, how many times have you thought, if we could all just get together and meditate at the same time on love, like it would just instantaneously change the world. um so I think just more and more as people one by one decide to get on, um that it'll start to, it seems like it's kind of in the phase right now where it's new enough that people are a little bit skeptical still, because I was, you
Mhm.
know, I see it as more and more of us get on there that it's going to be like people looking for, hey, where can I plug into someone that can show me TechnoTutor or whatever for myself, for my kids. And then I think that just everything that needs to be fixed, like just completely overhauled, um, the ideas will come. And then the person will still, like, we all have a role to play, no matter how smart. So the people that are supposed to step forward and help create a new health type system, for the medical side, for the political side, I mean, just every single area. I think there's nowhere that it wouldn't help us to move forward collectively. Um,
I like that. I like what you just said
yeah.
because, there's always that part of program that we all have collectively, like, well, like you stuck here and you don't see how important you are right now to
Yeah.
everything that's happened. I mean, because we see ourselves as like, well, there's this big problem here and I'm just one person. But, that one grain of rice, right? The one grain of rice and then another one and then another one and then another one creates everything that we all collectively need.
Yeah, and that's the lie that we don't matter and that our little, and I mean there's definitely been some of that with myself, and like there's so many people out there sharing great things right now. It's like, gosh, everything's been done, but that's a lie. Like, there I still have my piece that I'm responsible for, and if I don't do it, then the dominoes aren't going to fall exactly like you know they're meant to. So yeah, I think just honoring that you have a place, and some of us may be more in the background and some of us may be more in the front, but we're all working together.
Yes. I
Yeah.
was looking at that point recently of duality, right? Like the feeling superior and inferior,
Mm.
and how that plays because usually, you feel inferior and you understand that that's like that down, I feel lower than. But then that superiority point where you feel like you're better than, and that's like the one you really, like, oh man, I need to check myself on this. But then it all comes down to equal
Yes,
and oneness,
yes.
right? Because you are as valuable as I am. But the thing is that collectively we're not thinking that and we're not walking that.
We're not taught that. That's the thing, too. And I think part of that is because so many of us are coming at it as a prescript from the perspective of, I'm a body and this is the it. Like, once we get like start viewing things from the soul level or from the eternal viewpoint, then it's easier to see that while we're all equal, we're not all at the same spot. So just because somebody seems to be at a lower spot or whatever in their understanding, it's perfect for them and they're equal to you. And that's where we've messed it up so bad. I
Right.
think I'm just better than you because, I know more, I've got more money, what all the different things that we tell ourselves make us superior. I look better. How about that? I mean,
Yes.
it's so silly. I mean, it's just lie upon lie upon lie. And
But
I
then,
totally agree. The concept of equality is so important.
yes. And then if you take it even further, um, we then have like the energy healing community because I've gone through it all. And they always like, we have to be one love and one love and one love, right? But we're not addressing the issues that we have within ourselves. So like everybody's like, yes, I'm going to be one love, one love, one love, right? But the issues are not being resolved. And then it's like, well, I'm still waiting for the gift at the end of the tunnel, and it's not happening because I'm doing this one love, but I'm not actually seeing where I'm feeling superior or inferior, and I'm not resolving that. I'm just believing that there's this
Yes,
one love, right?
exactly. Exactly.
And how
And I think too,
TechnoTutor.
like within that, I hear too that sometimes, especially on the spiritual path, like we can just get, it's all love and light. I'm just going to focus on the positive. I don't have this darkness inside me. And we're never going to get there. I mean, so much of my journey out of religion has been about accepting the darkness that's inside of me, and like you said, not thinking necessarily good or bad, like just like it just is. It's here to create contrast and it's a part of me. And if I don't accept it, I'm never going to be able to leave it. Like I'm never going to be able to transcend it. Um,
Yes, and the cool thing that I liked, because again, I've used it all. But with TechnoTutor, you can actually go in there and see it for what it is, right? Because we're like, there's sort of like, let's say I have an issue and you created sort of like this monster in your head, right? But then when you see it for what it is, you're like, it
This is
wasn't
so silly. Yes. Do you and I'll share just because so many women and men have issues around body image and weight and stuff. And so that's one of the things that I've worked with on TechnoTutor. And I've had a memory flash, and it was when I was probably 12 or 13, and my body was changing. And I went to the doctor for the checkup. And I stepped on the scale, and the nurse asked me, she said, "Well, what do you think you weigh?" And I told her, and she said, "Well, no, it's more than that, honey,"
Oh my goodness.
And that was it. That was the point, and it was just an old nurse. She was just an old lady. She didn't care what I weighed, I'm sure, but it was just the way it was delivered and the way it was received. Then I went through the next 30 something years of my life being afraid to step on a scale.
Isn't that crazy how it gets recorded in the
Yes.
way we perceive it?
Yes. I mean, and it's so silly. It's so silly. Somebody, if I could have just understood, like, your body's supposed to change, you're supposed to gain weight. Like, that would have made probably all the difference in the
Right,
world. But
because
now at least I can go back and I can start to undo that. And then one of the other aspects that I absolutely love that I'm working with TechnoTutor are the programming lists, like the stuff that we want to put in there that we know these are the beliefs that I want, you know. So yeah, undoing and then creating
creating
something
those.
new.
Well,
Hmm.
it's really cool that you put that point of if I would have known that your body's supposed to change, right? And then, like that's what we want to do with children using TechnoTutor is okay, well, if you understand things for what they are, not what you believe or think or imagine or you saw somewhere that it is. No, this is what it is. So there's no
Yes.
changing that because it's just what it is, right? And the other point, which I've used with Aryan has been great is in that moment you can do that self-forgiveness and then you can immediately just use TechnoTutor to
Get past it.
put
It
and then
doesn't
that's
have
it.
to be there. Yeah. Yeah. And see, the thing that's beautiful about you, like, you have control over some of that she's getting, sold so many lies that we get outside of the home and in the school that, parents didn't, we didn't know that they were being taught stuff that wasn't necessarily what we wanted them to be taught. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. It's going to be fun to see what Aria does. That's for sure.
Yes. I think so too. She already is like, oh my God. But
Yeah, she's
it
she's amazing.
it is really what is it called? If we can in that moment, for example, even right now, let's say where your children are, even us as adults, and I do this all the time. I have an issue. I run into the store. Like the other day, I went to I never go to Walmart and I just decided to go to Walmart this one day and this whole bunch of totes fell on my leg and it cut my leg from almost my knee all the way down. But anyway, the point is I was like, it wasn't like, oh, this stupid plays or like
Yeah.
these people, they're not doing their job. Like it wasn't, I didn't go into the blame or into the victim or into just like, okay, where was I not careful? Where was I not paying attention? Because I'm seeing it for what it is instead of adding all of those emotional things that we've been taught that we are supposed to do
Yes.
because we are the victims, right? So even as adults, we can simply just do it right there and then and stop participating in all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's like so small, but so big at the same time. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And then I see Also, as I work on it myself, then the people around me are changing as well.
That's that's the weirdest, like that's the quantum thing, that's just so when you forgive, you release the others with you, and that's like we can't explain how that works. It's just that somehow we're connected, and that when we do our work, everybody benefits. And if that doesn't motivate you, I mean, I've literally seen with my husband when we've had like been angry with each other or whatever, if I go and I can get myself to the place where I can truly let it go and forgive, then he instantly transforms. Instant.
Right, because you see it as like you're feeding the energy, right? And it's being created. And so if you don't stop it, then it just goes like that. But the moment you stop participating, there's nothing for this to fall on, right?
Nothing
So
there.
it just
And
like,
that's the thing, is that that's what I mean, ultimately, we're learning how to feed the right thing.
yes,
That's it. I mean, that's it. That's why, you don't fight against it if, there's somebody that believes different than you and you're sure they're wrong. You don't fight against that belief because you're feeding it.
yes, you're creating the same thing
You
you don't
have
want
to,
to create.
yes, yes. So you have to, I mean, that's it. We're learning to be alchemists.
Yes,
It's just, and I mean, it's a messy dance a little bit. It's a messy dance, but it's so exciting because so many of us are doing it that I think we're just gonna birth the new earth faster than we could ever imagine.
yes,
Oh,
I agree with them. I agree. And um, again, because we're all willing to share, we're all willing to put in, hey, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is how it changed me. And who was it? There was somebody who said, I enjoy watching you, but I don't want to do it. Like I enjoy that for you, but I don't want to do it. And
you mean
like
they didn't want to do TechnoTutor?
not just TechnoTutor, like I don't want to change how my life is right now.
Yeah.
I love watching that you're doing it. So it's almost like there's a lot of people because we've all been the watchers, right? The TV and then we feed off of energy of people doing what we desire to do, but then all that
Yes.
programming is sort of like keeping us here of saying, I'm just going to live my life while watching this. So like when we watch the movie and it's so exciting and you get the feelings, but you don't have to be in the movie. And there's so
So
many people.
we're going to have to step out and and be willing to participate a little bit more.
Yes,
Yeah.
right? Because is it through living, right? Through every day, you doing that one thing you don't want to do, and sometimes doing what you do want to do. But
Yeah.
most of the
Yeah.
time is the parts where you're like, I don't want to do this today, but I know I got to do this today.
Yeah. Yeah. So acknowledging that it's within you that you don't want it, but there's also something within you that knows it's important. So you're gonna act on that instead of letting the lower vibration win. Yeah.
Have you encountered any of that where you're like you'll wake up and be like, I know I got to do this, but I'm just gonna put it off or
Truthfully,
put
I
it
mean, I've
off.
encountered a lot of resistance with TechnoTutor because I tend to be one of those students that like works fast and, like I make good grades. I'm a good student, and I'm in level two.
I
you
know when I
know
was like,
and I mean,
what?
I'm like, okay. So I mean, like, with the flashing of the levels, at least I pretty much just say, okay, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. I commit 10 minutes to it, and then if I go longer, then that's okay. But I never really have to push myself to do some of the lists that are the programming, or I really enjoyed the 30-day quick start, that kind of stuff. I didn't have to push myself so much, but to go back and remediate from such a low level, I have tremendous resistance to. I
I
mean, it's just the truth.
Yeah, no, we all do, and especially on those long ones, you're like, oh man.
This is so like yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yes, yes. But isn't it interesting how then as you go through that, then all of these things start coming up that you hadn't even thought about, like with the simplest words. Because at the end of the
It's
day,
true.
It's just our
And I mean,
words.
it's been said so many times, the programming happened within the first 7 years of our life, and that's when we were learning those words. So, I mean, it does make sense. It's just a matter of, and I think the more that I do it, the better, the less resistance there is. But I mean, like that was something that in the beginning was really strong, and now it's just a little, it's still there, but it's not as bad because I guess I've worked with it long enough now to know that I'm seeing results. um yeah.
Isn't, yeah, I thought that too. The more consistent you get, the faster and faster and faster and faster things started happening. And then I think towards the beginning, it was like the stop and go for me. And I could see where it was like, "Vroom," and then things would, and then, "Vroom," and then you're like, oh man, it's all on me.
Yeah, it always is. It always is.
Do you have, if you can reach out right now, you have the platform to everyone, every parent, if they're planning to be parents, life coaches, spiritual people, that you can give them a message, something that they can take away, what would it be?
I think that when you get a nudge from the inside, like if for some reason, like this technotutor stuff has shown up in your field and you're feeling a nudge, just do it. Like, don't be afraid. And I think that when we put things off, it just delays, like it delays our, I mean, it actually, it continues our suffering and delays our progress. So, I mean, like, basically, I don't know that it's great advice, but always listen to that little voice that's talking to you and beware of the voice of the yeah, but.
And that's the one we
Um,
investigate, right?
because I mean, like that's one of my things that I mean, I just honestly struggle with sometimes is that, like, okay, yeah, I may have something to say, but yeah, but, it's already been said. Yeah, but. So maybe get off your yeah, buts and just do what do what you're being led to do. And especially if you've got young kids. Like if I had it to do over again, I've told you that. Like if I had it to do over again, I would get plugged in to someone like you. I think you're going to be like the perfect one for parents starting out because you've got that age, and just go for it, like just do it, you know?
That is so true. It's so interesting on the point that you said, the yeah, but, right? Because we always have sort of like the justification of like why I'm not doing this. But then if we really investigate that point, we realize that it's just our fears, and it's
It's
just
yes.
what, the
And every time
untrustiness.
you do something that you're afraid of, the amount of progress that you make is huge. That's something that I don't know if it came through TechnoTutor, but it was like that thing that you're most not looking forward to doing or that you
Yes.
dread the most. Go ahead and just do it. You know, just do it. Have the hard conversation, just, and then it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And actually, that seemed to like just unlock something within me. And then you get to experience something new.
Absolutely. I have done that many times. I, like, if I have to
Yeah.
have a conversation, and then I just put it in TechnoTutor and I'm like, I'm good to have this conversation. And then that's it. It's just like you get through it because,
Oh, it wasn't so hard.
right, there's more
Yeah.
in the mind that's happening than what the physical action is.
Yeah. It's all just a prison of our own thoughts. It's so silly. And, like what you're worried about, especially if it's like in regards to I'm worried this person's going to think, like it's so far off from the actual truth, and you really don't have control over what they think of you anyway. So you can either, speak your truth or let them believe what it's just it's totally an illusion that we're not safe to do the things that we fear.
Yes, I agree 100%. We've been
Yeah.
programmed with so much fear, with so much our ability to stand up for ourselves and say, okay, well, let me investigate this. Let me analyze this point. Let me even think about it in another way, right? Because it's always like what you're being told and is shoved down. And it's like, okay, now you accept this.
Yes, exactly. And I know, like, I had this silly fear of doing things like on my family's time. Do you know what I mean? Like if there's something that I want to do and it's on the weekend or whatever, like I try always to schedule all my stuff when they're in school or work or whatever. And that was something recently that came out, like there was something I wanted to do and it was on the weekend, you know? And so I remember like my initial reaction was, I'm not going to do it because that's my family's time. And like that was so silly. And then I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And the family was fine.
Yes.
They were fine with it. I mean, there might be a tiny bit of resistance, but ultimately they're like, yeah, that's great, Mom. I hope you have a great time.
Bye.
Yeah.
It isn't that sometimes the resistance from the other side would sort of be created because we're creating the energy of resistance, right? So like it technically created based on the fact that we then created the energy that needed to be fed of something. So they're like, okay, we'll feed it, right? But
It's always that way, isn't it? It's
if it's
always that
not
way.
there, then there's nothing to feed.
There's nothing to feed. So, yeah, the work is always internal.
Yes, I like that. I
Yeah,
like,
it's always internal.
oh my God. Well, I am so glad. I know I said it was only a couple minutes, but I'm
It's
so
not a long
glad
time.
that you got to share. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we leave?
Can't think of anything. I'm grateful to be a part of the community. I'm grateful you shared with me. And I just think it's going to be fun to see where everything goes.
I'm glad. I'm so excited to hear from you in the next, again, 6 months, year,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
every
it will
time I
be. I mean,
talk
like,
to you, it's like
I
boom, boom,
mean,
boom, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
well, I'm definitely willing. Like, I'm just at that point where, okay, I'm, it's time. I'm willing, I'm willing, I'm willing. So just, I think that spirit lends itself to growth.
Yes, that's the best advice ever. Be
Yeah.
willing, be
Being
open,
willing.
right? And
Yeah.
be open.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kim.
You're welcome. It was
Thank
great
you,
to
thank
talk
you.
to
If
you.
anybody, you are in the self-perfected group. So if
Mhm.
you're watching this and you're in the self-perfected, can they reach out to you if they have
Oh,
any questions?
absolutely. I would love it.
I know I've done that where I hear someone in a call and they have a point similar to me. So I reach out and be like, okay, how did you do it? Because I can't get past this point, right? So thank you so much. And if anyone wants
Welcome.
to reach out, please do because she is amazing.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Bye.
Bye.